Johnny, there's a lot of big money in baseball right now. And in the offseason, people are wondering, what will Aaron Judge get? And will it impact what Shohei Ohtani gets? We're going to talk about that. Mike Trout said the front office actually listens to his opinions on what the team should do. So what should Mike be saying to Perry? We're going to whisper some sweet nothings in his ear so that we can help the Angels be better. And there's another autograph story about a dad sending his son to try to get an autograph. It's messy. We're going to talk about it. You're Locked On with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can give us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Helps others to find the show. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can like, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified every time a new episode drops.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Our fandom runs deep for the Los Angeles Angels, the Anaheim Angels, the California Angels. We've been through it all the names, all the changes, all of it. And we're here for you every single day of the week so that you can get all the latest and greatest about our favorite team. Mike, because the offseason is approaching, we've got about a month of playoff baseball happening, and then we will get into the offseason. There's going to be a lot of numbers, a lot of contracts, a lot of first-time free agents being thrown around this season, and we're looking forward to the hot stove. We love ourselves some hot stove around here. So there's going to be a lot to talk about. But today we wanted to talk about the potential contract of what Aaron Judge might get and how that might affect Shohei Ohtani's contract coming into next season as the Angels work to develop something with him, as they work to possibly extend him or present him with a brand new contract that's going to get him paid. So you have some numbers here. Let's talk about these numbers of some of the biggest contracts in the league.
Well, everybody knows that Mike Trout is making the most money, and well-deserved, right? He's making $426.5 million. That's just a little bit over what we're making with Locked On. And so, right? Not true. But Mike's the number one paid guy and well-deserved. Mookie Betts comes in at number 2, $365 million over the lifetime of his contract. Francisco Lindor with the New York Mets, $341 million. Here's an interesting one, John. Fernando Tatis Jr., who I really like, he's a talented player. He signed a contract for $340 million, but he is suspended because he got pinged for performance-enhancing drugs. Yeah. Do you think that maybe he is feeling bad and that the Padres are regretting signing him to that big of amount of money in his contract?
Look, he's a young kid who needs to make better decisions for himself. As far as the Padres go, you sign a player like that and you sign them to keep them around for a long time. The way that the Padres did, they did nothing wrong in signing Tatis Jr., but the fact that he was hurt because of a motorcycle thing, and now he's got the PED suspension, it's like, oh man, good grief. I feel bad for the Padres because it is frustrating. It's ridiculous that he's kind of dug this hole for himself in the last year and a half.
Right. You know, there's a player that has actually grown on me, and I didn't like him at first because I hated the comparisons to Mike Trout, but that was Bryce Harper. And Harper actually has grown on me, right?
Yeah, same here.
He's a gamer, and he's fun to watch, and he's playing through pain. He's playing through injuries. He has a contract right now over the lifetime of his contract, $330 million. And then, of course, Giancarlo Stanton, who just eliminates the ball, hits it into another dimension when he swings, $325 million. Corey Seager signed with the Texas Rangers last offseason, $325. Garrett Cole, who said, I don't want to be irrelevant, and if I came to the Angels, I probably wouldn't have helped. I added that part. But he signed for $324 million. And then Manny Machado, $300 million, of course, with the San Diego Padres. And all of that is to consider what possibly the teams would offer Aaron Judge, because he is a free agent. And the more important question is, I know Shohei's got a $30 million deal for this season, but I think it was the Angels' way of saying, hey, hang with us, and we're gonna extend you and give you some monies at the end of next season, if not before this season. So, Johnny, let's talk two things. One, give me your best guess at an Aaron Judge contract, and then your best guess on if Ohtani re-signs with us, what it would be, or would it be more if he hits free agency and signs with another team?
It makes me laugh that New York did not get an extension done with Aaron Judge in the offseason and didn't offer what he was looking for, because now he's going to get paid.
And you make an interesting point there, because you look back at like Giancarlo Stanton's deal, it's $325.
Yeah.
The rumor was that the Yankees offered Aaron Judge, I think, wasn't it $230 or something like that, which is a lot of money. But how interesting now that he turned that down and he actually bet on himself. And of course, homie bet right, because he must have been using BetOnline, because he actually went in the right direction and betted on himself, because he had an incredible, incredible year.
If I had to guess, I would put Aaron Judge somewhere between probably Bryce Harper and Stanton money. So Harper at $330, Stanton at $325. That's where I think that Aaron Judge could land. And I also think he's going to be one of those guys that signs the 7, 8, 9, 10-year deal with the next team, whoever that may be. Now, I have no idea who's going to offer that to him. It could very well be New York, and they're going to have to, eat their shoe because they decided not to give him the money he deserved earlier. And it's only going to be more competitive in the offseason. And that those big players like the Dodgers are going to be in there, possibly even Texas Rangers, because they're trying to build back. And gosh, I do not want Aaron Judge in the American League West against us
in Texas, right?
Yeah, in Texas, where he can hit bombs.
Yeah,
I know it's more of a pitcher's park these days, but he'll find a way, that's for sure. So
he will.
Yeah, I would not look forward to facing him constantly throughout the year when they've already got Simeon and Seager on that roster. Could be a big play for the Rangers.
Sure.
We'll see what happens there. But Mike, I think he's going to get a multi-year deal with a team that's going to give him probably $330, maybe even $335. That's my best guess for Aaron Judge. But what do you think?
Yeah, I know that is he 30? Is he 31? He's kind of around Trout's age, or is he younger than Trout?
I think he's younger than Trout. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe just by a couple of years. And so I think that the numbers might be a little bit higher financially if he signs somewhere else. But I would see the Yankees at least offering him Bryce Harper money just to see if they can actually get him to re-sign.
He is 30, by the way.
He is 30. Okay, so just 1 year behind Trout. Now, Shohei Ohtani, the numbers that have been thrown out for Shohei are, of course, like $500 million. And that's been by fans. Fans have thrown things out because we just have that luxury of throwing out a whole bunch of numbers. But there also is some factors that we have to consider. I think Shohei likes the Angels. He likes his teammates. I think he likes Anaheim. And I think that he wants to be here and win here. So I don't think that he's necessarily going to get the break the bank contract of $500 million. I'm up for being wrong, and quite possibly will be wrong. But I wonder if him signing with the Angels might actually be cheaper than if he hit the free agent market. So where do you think that Shohei will land if he re-signs with the Angels, or if he hits free agency? And do you think that those numbers would be similar?
I'm going to give him the annual value of $50 million. I think he's going to get $50 million a year. It may not be in terms of length. It might not be a long contract. It could be anywhere from 3 to 5 years for Shohei Ohtani. But what I think that, because this contract is so complicated, I think what's going to need to be implemented is some safeguards on the part of whoever decides to sign him or gets to sign him. And what I mean by safeguards is, we know he has an injury history. We know that doing both it takes its toll on the body. And so I think that if a team is going to sign him, they'll want some safeguards. Now, that might mean, hey, you reached this many innings pitched and you were batting for this many innings, or you reached this many home runs or RBIs, or perhaps, hey, you were in the top 5 in MVP voting. So they're going to add some incentives to Shohei's contract. So I think the standard for a short-term deal will be a $50 million annual value, plus incentives for Shohei Ohtani. So I think it's going to be something we've never seen before. How unicorn would it be for Shohei Ohtani to get a unicorn contract?
Sure.
And after all the things that he's done. But I think, Mike, that if the Angels are going to go after him, it would serve them well to add some of those incentives. And perhaps it's a short-term contract. Maybe it's 5 years, $50 million. So that's $250 million. That's pretty affordable long-term, but it does eat up a lot of salary in terms of annual salary. Now, hopefully we get a new owner who isn't going to be scared of the luxury tax like Artie Moreno. But I think somewhere around $50 million a year for Shohei. Not sure on the years, but I think a safe bet for any team is going to be 3 to 5 years. I don't know if Shohei would want a long-term contract, but who knows? What are your thoughts?
Sure. I like the $45 million a year mark. And because that's a Matt Olson from the Braves, because he's kind of similar in his hitting style. And then also on the pitching side, there's been some comparisons to like Kevin Gossman and Robbie Ray, and they're about $20 million a year. And so I think you up it a little bit and you go to $45 million. Now I wouldn't want to insult Shohei. So I would throw that out there and I would incentivize it up to $50 million. And I think you're right. You give him some incentivizing moments of innings pitched and MVP and those types of things. And there is something about Shohei, right, that makes you go, he doesn't seem like he's a 10-year, 13-year type of guy. He seems like he's give me 5 years. And so when you said 5 years to 50, that was like, that I could hang there. Like, and I know it's not my money, but I looked at that and I went, that's not going to sink the Angels, and it gives them some flexibility moving forward. Yeah. I wonder if it might be more like 7 years, $350 million or 7 years, $400 million, right? Like it might be more along those lines, but I do think the Angels are having those conversations, and that's why they signed him to this $30 million deal. But either way, we're going to see some really incredible numbers this offseason. And I'm wondering if there's going to be some discussion on Aaron Judge's part where his free agency and his agents are going to wait to see if the Angels actually make any moves towards Shohei Ohtani. And I wonder, and this might just be like a crazy dream, wishing upon a star, I wonder if the Angels will engage with Aaron Judge this offseason, because there was some conversation about trading for him 2 off seasons ago, right? And I wonder if there might be some conversation there where we actually start having conversations with him about what it would look like for him to come to Anaheim. And that would just be unreal. And we would have to wake ourselves up from that dream, because that would be amazing to have him in our lineup. If
Artie Moreno is going to go out in a blaze of glory, he's certainly going to do it by signing Aaron Judge to a contract. That would be it. Correct.
Well, coming up on Locked On Angels, the autograph world has been in the news lately, and we have a story similar to Trout's auto story, and you don't want to miss that. But first, Locked On Angels is brought to you by our new friends at Roan. Men, you love to look good, and you love to feel good while you look good, which is why you need Roan in your life. It's a men's clothing line that will help you to look good and feel good. And Roan fits each man perfectly. It's never uncomfortable, never tight. They always have your size, whether you have a dad bod, a small bod, or no bod at all. They have everything that you need. Roan has what they call a commuter shirt. This is the most comfortable, breathable, flexible shirt known to man. And here's why. Roan's got comfortable 4-way stretch fabric, and it provides breathability and flexibility, and it leaves you free to enjoy what life throws your way. From your commute to work to your 18 holes of golf, Roan has got your back and your front. With Roan, looking good is easy. They have wrinkle release technology. It allows the wrinkles to disappear as you stretch and wear your shirt. That is so good for me, especially on a Sunday morning. I always have a way of just like crinkling my shirt, Johnny. It's terrible. And then I have to anyway. And then they have Gold Fusion. It's anti-odor technology. You're smelling fresh while looking good all day long. Plus, Roan is 100% machine washable. You can ditch the dry cleaner altogether. So here's what you need to do. Go to roan.com/lockedon. Use our promo code LOCKEDON. You can save 20% on your entire order. When you check out, just put Locked On in the promo code section. 20% off your entire order. Here's the website, RHONE.com/locked on. Again, use our code locked on to get 20% off. The website again, RHONE.com/locked on.
We want to thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Michael, I think it's important that we take some time to talk about Mike Trout. Now, with him being out for about a month this season, missing most of 2021 last season, I think we forget just how great he can be. And he put that on display at the end of the season when he went on a tear in September. Listen to this. His final home run of 2022 was remeasured after he hit it. It went, according to StatCast, 490 feet. Listen to this.
Wow.
It's Trout's longest home run of the StatCast era, since they've been keeping track of this kind of stuff with StatCast. It's the Angels' longest home run of the StatCast era.
Wow.
It's the 5th longest home run in Major League Baseball this season, and it's the longest home run in MLB in 2022 that wasn't hit at Coors Field. How about that?
Good grief. And then, Johnny, at the close of 2022, when the season ended, Mike Trout, of all the baseball players that have ever played, Trout is 37th in WAR. He has an 82.4 WAR. Next season, he's going to pass the likes of Ken Griffey Jr., Chipper Jones, and Wade Boggs.
Just those guys?
Hall of Famers, right? Get this, Trout is only 31. He'll be starting 32nd season next year. So this just in, off the waiver wire, he's good. He's really good. Now, we bring up all of this because Mike Trout said last week in an interview that the Angels front office does actually ask his opinion on stuff. And so it got us thinking, if we're Mike Trout, what opinions are we sharing with the front office? What are we telling Perry that needs to happen in order for this team to be better? Johnny, what are your thoughts? You're Mike Trout and you're talking with Perry Minasian. What opinions are you sharing with him?
I'm sure that the reason Phil Nevin is back this season has a lot to do with Mike Trout. I've seen the way that they interact in the dugout together, and Mike looks like a coach out there because he's standing up there next to Nevin and watching what's going on. So before we even get into speculation, I think that had a huge part to do with Phil Nevin returning this season. I think it had a lot to do with Mike Trout's input. In fact, it reminds me of shortly before Joe Maddon was let go, there was a pretty tense conversation happening between Mike Trout and Joe Maddon in the dugout. And nobody really knew what they were saying, but maybe we can get John Boy on the case. Maybe he can tell us what they were saying.
But they were arguing over pineapple on pizza, I think.
That's right. It's delicious, by the way. Sorry if I let anybody down out there.
It's not.
So to me, that says a lot about the clout and the weight that Mike Trout carries with this team. And if I'm Mike Trout, I think the biggest thing that the Angels need to address and the information that he needs to pass on to Perry Minasian is to find the right free agent for the right position. And in my opinion, I think that's either going to be shortstop, second base, or left field. You need a big splash, especially in this last season of Artie Moreno's ownership. You got to show the fans that nothing is changing in terms of how hard they're going to work to get the right pieces in play in the offseason. So if the Angels lead off the hot stove with a splash, then I think it needs to be one strong free agent candidate in left field, short, or second base, whatever the case might be. And then they need to go and get some depth. But I think Mike Trout should share with Perry, hey, we really have to go and get this guy. Let's go get my buddy Aaron Judge and bring him over here. Let's go get my buddy Carlos Correa from the Twins and bring him over here to play shortstop. Something like that, I think that Trout needs to pass along to Perry Minasian. What about you?
I think that Trout, when he shares opinions, I think that Trout is going to talk to Perry about some of these young guys. And I think he's going to let him know, like, hey, this guy's ready and this guy isn't. this guy's good. This guy needs some more time to cook.
That's good.
And so remember we were talking a couple of days ago about Trout from center field, like correcting. It was Elvis Peguero, right?
Yes.
Like was on the mound. I said Jose Marte. Thank you for correcting me, listeners. But he was like, you're tipping your pitches, bro. We're seeing that you're doing that. I think that those are the conversations that Trout could possibly be having with Perry. Like, listen, these young guys are fun to be around. They're just not ready. And so I can see Trout going to Perry and saying, listen, we got to make sure that Sandoval's ready, Detmers is ready, Suarez is ready. I think we got to bring back Michael Lorenzen. I could see him going into a conversation with Perry and really advocating for these young guys and saying, let's let them go. I could see him walking in and saying, we've got to have Livan Soto in the starting lineup somewhere. He's got to be at second. He's got to be at short. That doesn't mean that they don't get a free agent. But I could see Mike really advocating for these young guys because what this team needs is a leader. They need somebody that's going to motivate this team and fire this team up. And it doesn't have to be somebody who is so vocal and is dancing on tables and is throwing things and getting upset. Mike can be a great leader and lead by example. And a part of that example is to lean over to Phil Nevin, is to lean over to Jeremy Reed or Matt Wise, or perhaps Perry Minasian and say, listen, I know baseball. Here's what we need to do in this situation. I think that Mike doesn't let on about how great he really is off the field and in the dugout and behind the scenes. And so I think that Mike is sharing opinions and should share opinions on the young guys that need to come up and need to be in the lineup, the chances they need to give to some of these young guys that are in the minor leagues. If I'm Mike, I'm looking at the Trash Pandas going, that's the culture that I want. Who is ready? And let's bring them up right here, right now. Let's have them at spring training and allow them to try to win a spot. Because when it's competitive, when there's a competition, you know those guys are going to rise to the top because they're that good.
The loudest voices don't always make for the best leaders. And I think that Mike Trout is a quiet leader. And I think he's struggled with stepping into that role, especially last year being hurt and then missing the month this season. But I think he's starting to become more comfortable with that. And he's starting to realize that as things are rather tumultuous with the Angels ownership situation and what's going to happen with the front office, everything's kind of in limbo. But the one constant is Mike Trout. And I think he's starting to recognize that. And I've seen a lot of great feedback from Angel fans about his interview with Erica Weston at the end of the season, just thanking the fans for supporting them and saying, we know that this isn't the result that any of us wanted, but we are appreciative of your support throughout the season. And so I think it's stuff like that, small things like that, that are going to be helpful for us as fans, but also, being in the ear of the manager, being in the ear of Perry Minasian, being in the ear of the players. That's the kind of stuff that Trout needs to do. All the stuff behind the scenes that we don't see all the time. I think that he is starting to feel more comfortable with that.
Well, speaking of Mike Trout, remember the ridiculous story that got tweeted out of Trout walking by the two kids that asked for an autograph. And then it was so great to see everybody and their mama come to Trout's defense because he is a great dude. And he's always so good with the fans, as you pointed out in the last segment. There was a story last weekend that came out. Not sure if you saw it, Johnny. Henry Davis, he's the #1 overall pick from 2021, playing for the Pirates. He actually responded to a tweet. A fan sent his son over during a game to get Davis's autograph. And the fan had a son. His son was 6 years old. And when the kid returned with the baseball, the dad actually took a video of the baseball and tweeted it out. And he said this in the tweet. Henry Davis wrote this on a 6-year-old's baseball today at Peoria Sports Complex. And it was an Arizona Fall League game between two teams. He said on the ball, stop using your kids to get autos, please.
That's fantastic. He wrote that on the ball?
He wrote that on the ball. Now,
and the dad tweeted this out. Okay.
I think the dad was looking for, people to get upset and fired up. And that's why he said a 6-year-old's ball.
Right.
Well, Henry saw it and he responded. He said, hey, it was great talking with Cash. I love that he put the kid's name in there because that's an indication hey, I had a conversation with this kid.
Yes.
The kid's 6 years old. He said, I signed his A's hat. The kid said, I don't know who you are, but my dad said to run across the field and to get my autograph.
Good grief.
And then he said, it's hard to connect with fans when they make it a barrier between us. He said, I will be catching in the pen today if any of the kids want to come and talk ball. So first of all, Henry Davis gets a round of applause from the Halo Bros because he handled that so well. So Johnny, here's the question in regards to all of this. Why can't we have nice things, John? I mean, this is so frustrating when you see these adult males that are trying to get autographs via their kids, and then obviously they're selling them. Listen, I'm a nerd for autographs. I will try to get an autograph as often as possible. I stood next to some kids at spring training one time, and it looked like I was the dad, and the kids got autographs, and then the players stopped and signed my ball. I got Kendrys Morales, and I got some other guys as well. It was awesome. You were there. I think I stepped in front of you to get those autographs.
Probably.
But I love getting autographs. I'm not selling them. I'm not getting rid of them.
No.
But I hate that we have made it into this weird, like, I'm going to send my kid over and try to manipulate the players. We forget that these guys are humans. And it's just fun to be able to talk with somebody and have them sign something. And so why not just treat the players with respect? Right. And why not seek the autograph just for the fun of it, Johnny? Because it's fun to do, right?
It's just a whole culture of this market of getting autographs and reselling. And it's kind of the same thing with baseball cards. You know, there was a huge baseball card shortage and lots of stores didn't have cards available because these collectors were showing up before the store opened and were first in line. And places like Target had to regulate like lines and put up the stanchions and things like that. And it's just gotten so ridiculous because people are trying to figure out how to make money in other directions, right?
They're the worst.
They're the worst. Can't live with them, can't live without them. And to me, it's just a whole culture of this resell market, this trying to get the most valuable things. I mean, obviously, Henry Davis might have a very expensive autograph one day, and he might have a very expensive card one day. But I like that he called out the dad, and he also proved that he got to know the kid's name and spend some time with him. So he handled that situation perfectly. And I think it's just frustrating as fans who just want to meet players and have a moment with them and say hi, maybe even get a picture. I think for me, Mike, I think a picture these days is more valuable to me than an autograph because it's like, hey, I was there with this person. And so one of my favorite things was last season, I got a picture with Gooby because I happened to run into him. And I know he's not a player, but he's somebody that we really enjoy as a broadcaster.
Oh, he's a player.
He's a player.
Gooby plays.
Yes.
He's awesome.
And so just, there's just different ways to really experience have the experience of meeting a player that are much more valuable than just trying to swindle your way to get an expensive autograph. Speaking of autographs, though, do you have some that you're most proud of or that you're most excited about? I know you mentioned the Kendrys Morales one, but are there other ones?
I have one that I really am proud of, and it's Darren Erstad. I was really glad to get that one. I was bummed he didn't sign it in like what you call the sweet spot on the ball, but I didn't care because I'm not going to sell it. I have that in my nightstand next to me, and every once in a while before I go to sleep at night, I just talk to Darren.
Please don't finish that sentence.
What about you? Do you have a favorite autograph?
You know what's funny? You and I went to spring training. I think it was 2009, 2008. And I got a ball signed by a ton of minor leaguers. And I couldn't tell you whose names are on that ball.
Yeah.
Maybe like Peter Borges is on there. Perhaps Kendrys. But I know Mike Scioscia signed it, which is really cool. Awesome. And then, how about this? I got Steve Physiok's autograph on that ball because he was walking through to get to the broadcast booth at this game. And so I was like, Fizzy! And he signed my ball. So that was pretty cool. So I have a ball covered in signatures. I couldn't tell you who they are except for Scioscia and Physiok on that ball.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen today. Now make your second listen to Locked On MLB podcast with MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan. He's going to be talking about all things playoffs on his show. So you can follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, be sure and give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels. And if you're on Instagram, you can follow us at Super Halo Bros as well as Twitter. Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's show?
Well, we're going to talk about the grade we would give Perry for his roster construction in 2022, but we're going to give him a grade at the start of the season, and then we're going to give him a grade at the end of the season and see if both are different. Here's a clue. They're going to be different. So that's tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
Looking forward to that conversation, and we hope that you'll join us again. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Angels, and we hope that you'll join us tomorrow, and we'll see you then.